What is up, you amazing people? It is I, Nima. So today I was kind of thinking, we've been really lucky this year. There's a lot of old series kind of coming back, like Chrono Cross, 007, Suikoden, even the Trail series, like getting revisited, or Persona 3 and 4 that are going to be coming onto the Switch. There's like a lot of different series that are kind of making a comeback, and it just made me think about all the series that I wish would come back. And with that being said, I would ask you guys to do the same thing and comment down below, what series do you wish would come back? What game do you wish they would kind of port over or bring back? I know for me personally, there's still Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, but that's not going to be on this list because I've talked about it enough. Anyway, again, if you like video game content and you appreciate the hard work that a small creator is doing, please like and subscribe. So anyway, the first game I want to start off with, though, is one of my favorite games of all time, and that is Parasite Eve. Now, this is a very interesting game for me, namely because I'm not a huge horror fan, but I loved Parasite Eve. It hit me just the right time. I know I played it after it'd been released for quite a while. I think it was maybe 2 or 3 years. I was like early adolescence, and it was just, it worked so well with the scenario in life, because I got it for Christmas, and the game kind of takes place in Christmas. We were learning about like the mitochondria and things like that, and so that all stuck with me like really well, and it was just a very fun game, because yes, there was some definite horror moments, and it's scary, but then at the same time, it was kind of easy to play through. Like, you weren't too scared or anything to play. It's just this whole story that played out was just very intriguing, very interesting, and I just can't believe that for as popular as it was, and there's so many people I know who love it, that it's still not being remade or ported over or anything. It's just sitting there. In that same vein, though, there's also another horror game that, now this one I've never actually played, but I watched a few people play it, and it was so popular, and that is Eternal Darkness. That was on the GameCube. I understand, like, there was some issue with the company, like, they went out, or they sold the title, I don't know. There was some problem with why they couldn't continue making this game, but at this point, I mean, there's tons of money to be made bringing games like this back, and someone like myself, who I just kept putting it off, like, there was other games I wanted to check out, and I never ended up actually playing it. I would love to see this series back. So I would say there's like maybe 4 or 5 games that I kind of consider the first games I've ever played and beaten and really cared about what I was doing. One of those being Final Fantasy VIII, and the other one is Vagrant Story. A Vagrant Story was a great game. I never beat it. It was one of the hardest games I've ever played. I think to this day I would still say it's an incredibly difficult game. You get lost, but it was dark. It had this like sense of you had some power, but man, it was like a Souls game before a Souls game mixed with an RPG element, and it was just so great how you could select what area of an enemy to attack, and so you could like kind of maim them and then go after the kill. There were certain enemies that needed a certain combination in which to beat them. It was such a great game, and I just can't believe that they've never done anything with it. There's just Vagrant Story. It's a cult classic, and it's just, that's it. It's gone. we haven't seen anything from it. I wish they would bring that one back. If nothing else, then just for me to actually be able to beat it, because I know I could beat it now. I think. Hopefully. Now, this is another game that just really got lost in the sands of time, and it's another game that I admit I've never actually played the original form of it. I did play a ROM of it in college, I believe. One of my friends was like, he knew I was into RPGs and old school RPGs, and so he hooked me up with this ROM for Skies of Arcadia, and this game was so cool. I loved everything about it. I loved the characters, the story, the upgrades, the equipment. The whole thing about Skies of Arcadia was amazing. It just came out of nowhere for me. It wasn't a game that I thought I would really dig, just by some of the animation, I should say. It was a little dated by the time I played it, but God, it was so good. And when he told me it came out in like the early 2000s or late 90s, and like that's where it sat, I figured, oh, they gotta bring that back, right? There's gotta be something. But no, we have not seen a remake of Skies of Arcadia. That game was so good. I really hope somebody thinks about porting that over, or I don't even know who owns it, to be honest, anymore. And I know these things get messed around with and traded back and forth and sold, but it would be so cool to be able to play that game again. Now, another game that I want basically just so I can beat it, because I played some of it. I, for some reason, kind of put it off, but I really enjoyed my time with it, and it's one of those games I just never got back to, and now it's really hard to find, and that game is Bully. Bully was so cool. It was such a great idea, and I think at the time, I was really just, like, in a place where I wanted, you know, I was expecting GTA 4 kind of stuff, and it seemed a little restrictive, but man, I think about it now, and I would love to play that game. It's one of of those games that I've tried to track down, but I don't have a PS2 now. Even if I did, the prices I've seen are pretty insane, and I have too crappy of a computer to play any ROM. So this is one of those games that, you know, with Rockstar, it's so hard because I think that they could easily do this stuff, but why? They make billions off of GTA 5, so why would they overextend themselves to bring games back? The other side of it is, do I trust Rockstar to do that? And I don't know. After the GTA trilogy kind of fiasco, I'm not so sure. So another game that I think is going to be a little bit controversial when I say this, only because, how do I put it? The sequel, I don't really consider to be part of the series. What I'm talking about here is Final Fantasy Tactics. Now I know there was like Final Fantasy Tactics 2 and the Lion Wars, and there was the Lion Wars is just more of a port of Tactics, but even that was released years and years and years ago. But I would really like to see an actual story, a part 2, or maybe even taken from that time frame of Final Fantasy Tactics. Now, Tactics 2 was a cute little game, and it was fine, but it was, I don't know, to me, really aimed at like children, and it was kind of, like I said, it was cutesy, but I want another, you know, deep, complex story about religion and governments and the kind of pariah of that time. And for me, that's what I like. I love what I consider the Game of Thrones-esque stuff, you know, and so having that then was so great, and we haven't seen anything like that since. It was a game that really did make you question morality. I remember that was like one of the first games I played where I was like, I don't know, they're right on so many things about religion, but I hope they bring that game back, or they come up with like an actual successor. Square Enix is pumping out everything you can think of, so it would be cool if they would do that, and maybe they might. This video is gonna be like 2 hours if I don't hurry up, so I'm going to kind of try to rush through the rest of these. But the other one that I was thinking of recently that I would love to play again in its full, complete game is Conker's Bad Fur Day. Conker's was great for so many reasons. One, the story was hilarious. Like, the game itself was just great. But then it actually had really fun gameplay. Like, I understand that the whole attraction to it was just how raunchy it was, but it was actually a legitimately fun game. And the multiplayer thing with I think it was the squirrels, and you're shooting each other back and forth from across the giant battlefield, that was really fun. Like, me and my girlfriend's brother would play that for hours. But yeah, Conker's Bad Fur Day would be awesome. I don't see it happening, but I wish they would. Now, FZero is a game that I think probably has a good chance at coming back in some form, or at least expanded upon. Now, I think there's a lot they could do with it now. Not just make it look prettier, but also like different game modes as well as online, maybe even some sort of like campaign/story mode. There's a lot that they could do with it if they wanted to, and as they're trying to sell things like amiibos and stuff like that, I think it would be a good format in which you could do that, and to bring out like a story mode and some characters that are just really, I don't know, magnets to, you know, a lot of retro gamers and new gamers as well. So I think that one has a chance. It would be cool. I'm not like the biggest fan, but it is a fun series to play. Now, another one I'm not like a huge fan of is Star Fox. Now, the reason I'm not a huge fan of Star Fox, honestly, is just because I've never really played them. I played the one on the Super Nintendo, but I played it way like late in its life cycle. Like, I want to say well after the PS2 had been released, so it just, I don't know, it was not easy on the eyes, and it was kind of hard to get into. And most recently, I have checked out the one on the N64. It was fun for what I played, but I'm also not really like huge into like air combat games. But I do think that Star Fox is a series that enough people really loved, and I don't understand why Nintendo does this with some of their great iconic characters and series, where they just leave them. Like, they'll put Mario in 18 different sports, but they won't continue the games that people really love. Another series that I absolutely loved, and it was one that I feel like had such a great storytell. Like, the writing, the like I said, the storytelling, it was Grandia. Specifically Grandia 2 for me. Just that whole story about the corrupt church, you know, turning on the people themselves and creating monsters, like, and you know, the heathen that you are is actually the hero. Such a great game, but we haven't seen much more from Grandia. Grandia has been dormant for years and years, and there again, this is a game that I played well after it was popular quote unquote. I don't know what's going on with it, and it probably is just gonna be dormant for a very long time, but it's another series that would be so cool to come back. Now, another one of those like RPGs is I keep bringing them up. I played a lot of RPGs. Sorry, it's just, that's what I did. Like, it's my love. And I would go Breath of Fire. So I played a couple Breath of Fire games, right? And the ones I played, I absolutely loved. I thought they were so much fun. They were so cool. I loved the characters. I loved how it felt a little cozy, but yet at the same time, you knew that you were in some heavy shit, you know? Like, these games were not for the weak-willed, if you will. Like, you had to know your stuff to be fairly decent at Breath of Fire. But we haven't seen a Breath of Fire or Golden Sun, which is another one I'm throwing on this list just off the top of my head, because I've never actually played Golden Sun. That's why it's not on my list. But no, let's throw that on there. Golden Sun needs to be there. But these two series were fantastic. But, and again, I know Breath of Fire is not Nintendo, but it has a home there, I feel like, because maybe that's where it started. And I don't know. This isn't about Nintendo. It's about Breath of Fire and how I wish that the game would come back. Now, another series that I really liked, but I just felt like really difficult, but it was a game that me and my friends liked to play, especially late at night, college, pizza, the room's a bit hazy, if you know what I'm talking about, and it was an old school game, and that's Medieval. That game was so cool. Some undead skeleton who's coming back to avenge something. The game looks really cool. Like, it has some, I want to almost say Psychonauts sort of like energy and art about it that I really liked, and it was incredibly difficult. Like, none of us ever got that far into it, but it was really fun. And it's one of those games that I think needs a home. It needs to come back somewhere. And I don't know why, that it's just been kind of left there to die again. And just without a place. And it was, like I said, I know some people who legitimately, nowadays I know them, and they loved the series. They played through them. It wasn't just a bunch of stoners eating pizza on a Tuesday night, but like legit gamers who really enjoyed the game. Now, the last one is arguably the very first like action adventure series I've ever beaten, and that is Soul Reaver. I loved Soul Reaver. It was different. It was so difficult for me, and it was like this idea of being evil was good. And early on in my gaming, you have to understand, like, I was a kid. Like, that wasn't, that wasn't the thing. You're supposed to be good and holy and all that. So being like this demonic undead dude who just kind of comes back and takes souls, that does not seem like a good guy. And so I absolutely enjoyed everything about this game, including the difficulty, but the storytelling, the ambience, the whole makeup of Soul Reaver. Why they've kind of left this one to die, I don't know. I think it would be well welcomed in today's gaming, especially if you did tie it in with like a Souls-like, or you could even do a roguelike style with it. Either one, it would kill, and tons of people would buy it, because the retro market alone, let alone the nostalgia and the fact that the character is just cool and the story is cool. Anyway, that's just some of the games that I wish they would bring back. Please, down below, put what series games you wish would come back. Anyway, guys, like always, I'm wishing you health, wealth, and above all, hope you're truly happy, and stay tuned, because tomorrow we've got a review on Shovel Knight Dig. If you stayed this long, I appreciate you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.